Okay.
Are they ready? What?
I think they're ready.
Oh. Patty's out of the room.
There's Tash.
You have a joint meeting? Yes. Oh, okay. But it's come up. I thought it was Tash. Oh, wait. Obviously, there's still people coming in. Wow. Bad crowd. This must be Shawnee. You're still getting people in here.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. This is a exciting time of year when we get to recognize our PTA Reflections Art Contest winners. And as many of you know, Reflections has been around for several years and welcomes all grades and abilities to explore and be involved in the arts. Annually, thousands of students reflect on a common theme and create original artworks in the categories of dance, choreography, film production, literature, music composition, photography, and visual arts. And Shawnee Mission is pleased to be a part of that. This year's theme for 2015-16 was Let Your Imagination Fly, which was created by a third grader in Sperry, North Dakota. So that is exactly what our students and our winners did. And so we have a short video that highlights their achievements. So we're going to show that now.
It's never hiding, you just have to light it. It's the one thing silly brain. You don't actually need to fly to let your imagination fly.
Oh, I don't? That's a relief. How do I do it then?
You know, it's funny you asked. I just happen to have a whole presentation ready for this.
I wish I could sit on the clouds at night. Well, it's raining to the ground. Black clouds squirting out water to the ground. I wish my dreams could come true. My imagination.
Okay, and so I'm going to ask all of our winners here in the front row to just step forward and turn around and face your audience. Okay, now take like 3 steps back and stand between the 2 pillars if you can, please. Okay, go that way a little bit. Scrunch to the middle.
Then you'll be on the stream cam.
On the TV, yes. So slide together. There you go. Okay, we're going to start down here. This is Josie Flem from Ray Marsh, first place, Visual Arts. And then Allison Ramsey, intermediate visual arts from Mill Creek. And then Rachel Silversine from Shawnee Mission West for visual arts. And Jaden Dewey from Indian Woods for visual arts. Just, they're out of order, but. That's okay. All right, now for photography, we have Josie over here again. From Ray Marsh. Yes. And now Lily Chalfie from Beddinghoven for photography. And Kyle Bean from Westridge for photography. And Daisy Morris from Shawnee Mission Northwest for photography, the high school. Okay, now we have our literature winners. Let's see, are they out of order maybe?
We have
Caitlin?
literature. Yes, we're right. Yes.
And Caitlin is also from Ray Marsh. And then Olivia Blomquist from Indian Woods. And Lauren Winston from Shawnee Mission East for literature. And musical composition, we have Caroline, who you might have heard singing a little bit ago. Are you on music?
Yeah, we have, yes.
That's
We
okay.
have Max, and then we have,
Oh, we're just in reverse.
oh my, so who do we have first?
Caroline.
Oh, here you go. Oh, my goodness. Of course you were in there.
Is it Ishia?
Yeah, pretty much.
Lhasa? From Briarwood? And Max Bunty from Indian Hills? And then for dance choreography, we have Molly McCracken from Trailwood, and Kate Early, also from Trailwood. And then for film production, we have Leonardo Vicuna from Corinth, and Riley Gaykowski from Belinder. And then also Brogan Thomas from Westridge, who isn't here, and Sophia Terrian from Shawnee Mission West. So let's have a big round of applause for all our winners. All right, and we're going to line up for a picture. So tall people in the back, short people in the front. Real quickly. Dr. Hinson, you want to cut him down? Okay, let's crunch it a little. Come on, Allison. You've done this how many times? Come on, a little closer, guys. We may have to make a middle row. Why don't you guys three come over here in the middle? There you go. Get out of the way.
All right, everyone, smile this way, please. Just a couple more.
Can you lead them to the punch and quickies?
Congratulations, everyone. Great job.
You may come for punch and quickies too.
Shelley, thank you. Shelley, thank you for your coordination of this program. We appreciate it on behalf of
years
SMAC
on end.
for years.
Years, I think.
We appreciate it. Where's Tash? Tash already went downstairs?
I think she's leading them down.
Okay. Is my mic still on? Thank you, everyone, for attending. I don't think it's on anymore. Maybe this one's on.
Mine's on.
Hello? Now I've turned it off. Thank you for everyone for attending. We will start our regular board meeting at 7 o'clock. If you'd like to go downstairs, there are refreshments, I believe, downstairs to honor the children from the reflections contest. So we will start at 7 o'clock. allegiance. Thank you for joining us this evening. Move to B1, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Hinson.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodburn. This month, we are pleased to introduce another outstanding student representative. Jessica Brohl is with us. She's a senior at Shawnee Mission Northwest High School. Jessica, you want to go ahead and stand? If your family's with you, Jessica, they can stand as well. Just welcome. Congratulations,
Welcome.
Jessica. And we're going to... So let's learn a little bit about Jessica.
I've always tried really hard in school because that's what my parents instilled in me, and that was kind of the expectation. And you know, I'm happy to do that, but I was like, wait, where am I headed with all this? Like, I try so hard in school, but what am I planning on doing after school? And I realized that I wanted to do something that would help someone. I didn't want to get caught in the cycle where you go to school, you get a job. There's always a need for engineers in the world. It would be a good way for me to get involved and help others. I've been really interested in the military academies.
I told her earlier this year, she asked me to write her a recommendation letter for the Air Force and the Naval Academies. And those were the easiest letters I've ever had to write.
So I applied to the Air Force Academy and actually got an appointment a lot sooner than I expected, so I'm really thankful for that. I run cross country and play soccer, and I'm in orchestra, and I'm in some clubs. And those are the things that I'm really passionate about. And so I'm happy to make all of them work.
Jessica is a very rare kid because she's actually been in our top orchestra for 3 years.
Overall, the pieces that we play in symphony orchestra are some of my favorite, just because they're so big and bold, and it's really professional music that we're playing. So it's kind of cool, actually, because not that many students get to be conducted by the composer of the piece that they're playing. So I think what sets us apart is the fact that we get to combine groups and perform a lot of different pieces. I think that I've had a lot of unexpected opportunities this year that I'm really grateful for. I think I've been more involved this year too, because I was like, oh no, this is my last year here at Northwest. So I've been trying to go to as many football games and basketball games and attending pep rallies and stuff like that. I've always been more English oriented, and those are the courses that just came really easily to me. And now, and math and science have always been more difficult for me, but they're also really interesting. So I've kind of gravitated towards those just because I have to work harder in them. And I love our science and math departments here too. The teachers, they really take the time to work with me and help me understand.
Knowing her from an athletic perspective, she also plays varsity soccer for me, and I know she's also run cross country. She's always asking questions on how she can improve as a player and what she can do to help her teammates. Jessica, to me, is a very well-rounded individual. To me, it's discipline and time management. And she comes from a fantastic family that I know has, instilled those values in her.
I can become a civil engineer in the Air Force and, use my degree to do something really worthwhile for our country. And I just feel like it'd be an awesome way to give back and, do something really important with my education that I've been so lucky to have.
Jessica, we think you're really awesome as well. Another round of applause for you, Jessica. Congratulations. We are proud in the Shawnee Mission School District to celebrate 14 high school students who've been named finalists in the National Merit Program. The program is now considering these finalists for more than $32 million in scholarship offerings this spring. 5 Shawnee Mission elementary schools are receiving challenge awards this month for their achievement in reading and in mathematics. Shawnee and Apache were honored on February 19. Crestview, Neiman, and Rising Star will be honored later this week. The challenge award is given to schools that are making a notable difference in student achievement based on Kansas assessment results. And you can see the pictures, some of the pictures there on the screen. Teresa Shockley, a sophomore at Shawnee Mission East, is a distinguished finalist in the Prudential Spirit of Community Awards. The program honors students for their positive difference they make in their communities. Shockley founded a program that provided book selections in school counseling centers and libraries to help teens who struggle with mental health issues. Congratulations to Teresa. This week, Westridge Middle School will collaborate with Kansas School for the Deaf to present We Share a Language. This original play, written by University of Missouri Kansas City playwright Andrew Haggerty, will be performed in spoken word and sign language to share the message about finding similarities among those who seem different. The production has been made possible with support from the Shawnee Mission Education Foundation, the Kansas Deaf Cultural Center, and the Kansas School for the Deaf. As you know, February is American Heart Month. So we thought this would be an opportune time to share with you what our district is doing to encourage our staff members to participate in CPR training. We also want to share with you a very special story of our professionals putting their training into practice. Let's take a look.
Training scenario 1. Adult patient. Call for medical assistance.
My name is Shelby Reback. I'm the Health Services Coordinator for the Shawnee Mission School District. One of the things I do is coordinate our CPR program. All of our CPR classes are offered at Shawnee Mission Instructional Support Center. We teach about 2 a month. So this year I think we had 19 classes that we offered. We teach those classes to anyone who wants to take the class can take it for free.
Pull green tab to remove ads.
So an automatic external defibrillator, it's going to deliver a shock to the heart. We use it in conjunction with CPR. We always initiate CPR first. You know, the people who responded to the incident that occurred at school, they both said how exhausted they were, how scary it was, but how everything just went perfect. I mean, we heard back from the physicians afterwards that took care of that student, and they said, you couldn't have done anything better. You did everything just right, and that's probably why the student lived.
As far as I know, I woke up, came to school, because I don't remember even waking up that morning, so we came to school, gym is first hour, and it was our swimming unit. So we all got dressed out and we went up to the pool, and from what I know, we went and we got in and we did our buddy system type thing where you have to stay with the partner and everything. And we swam 1 lap down and back, and then I was the first one down and back.
We were in the pool probably no more than 5-10 minutes, and we had a swim test. And Colby was probably one of the first ones finished. And so, he got done. He was kind of sitting in the shallow end, and then kind of some funny things started happening, and he started going under, and that's where he was kind of close to the edge, so we were able to pull him out. And once you got him out of the water, his head out of the water, you could tell that there was something wrong.
I had a student come running up to me, and he was in his bathing suit, soaking wet, so I knew he had come from the pool area, and he had stated, we need some help, there's a kid in trouble. At that time, I didn't know what had happened, but by the look of the kid's face, I knew it was something pretty serious, so I responded to the pool area.
I started doing chest compressions. After about a minute of those, it looked like he was trying to cough some water up, and I thought that maybe he had, we'd kind of got his heart pumping again.
And I ran over there and assessed the student. I immediately realized that he was not breathing. I could tell by his color and the looks that he was not breathing, and so my training kicked in. At that point, I wasn't really thinking, I was just responding, and I just started to do CPR on him. Did CPR, it seemed like forever, but I know it was probably only a minute or two, but it wears you out having to do CPR. So I was starting to wear out pretty fast, and that's when the school nurse responded.
Because we all have walkie-talkies, I heard Officer Conan on the radio saying that there was an unconscious student in the pool area. So I immediately went in that direction. And when I got there to the pool, The teacher, Tyler Stewart, and Officer Conan were assisting Colby, and they were doing CPR. So they backed up when I got there, and then I took over the CPR. It was, I'm sure, less than 2 minutes before MedAct got there. Their response time was very quick.
Yeah, I don't think I really have really appreciated training as much as I did that day. I think I always kind of took it for granted and maybe kind of groaned when I had to go through it after doing it years after year after year, but I was very, very thankful afterwards. And until you have to actually go through a situation where you need it, you don't really realize how great training is.
You think that, it's never going to happen to us, it's not going to happen to me, I'm never going to have to use it.
I mean, it really can be the difference between life and death.
I think anytime you are responsible for kids, it's our responsibility to make sure they're as safe as we can possibly make them.
Well, I have children of my own. We all have people that we love and care for, and you just want the best for the people you care about, but you want the best for everybody. And I'm glad it worked out for that day.
As you know, daily in our buildings, we'll have about 28,000 students. We have over 4,000 employees. There are a lot of individuals in our buildings every day. We have medical emergencies and issues daily in the Shawnee Mission School District. Having individuals that are appropriately trained, as in the scenario we shared with you, sometimes is a life and death situation. So we applaud all of the individuals here, our officer and our nurse and our teacher, for really working diligently, being trained and working diligently to help save the life of one of our students. So congratulations to them. Dr. Southwick, we have a little bit of construction currently still going on.
We do. Some exciting things to mention tonight. First of all, you see on the screen a picture of the new Shawnee Elementary School. This was a rebuild of an existing elementary school to replace on the same site. So as this building's been built, we've been conducting classes on the same site. We're happy to say that we're probably 95% finished with moving in all of our equipment that we need, all of our tables and chairs and desks and all the things it takes for it to be a school. We're working with our staff over spring break to make that conversion, and we'll open up the first day after spring break the new Shawnee Elementary School. So it's an exciting time. This is an example of us taking old infrastructure and providing high-quality building with high-quality staff to meet the needs of our kids across the district. So I applaud all of the staff that have been involved in this, particularly the parents and the staff at Shawnee that have worked around this process and let us build this great school. We look forward to opening that school and giving everybody an opportunity to go through it. So extremely excited, and that happens a little bit later, about the middle of March. So if we can click the next slide. The other thing that's exciting tonight, this is the first glimpse of the aquatic center, of the rendition of what it potentially could look like. We're still in some design phase, but we're working budget and working the outside of the facility so it matches where we'll be over there in Lenexa. And you'll notice that there's a nice little bridge that's there that will connect to the Lenexa Fitness Center as well, their community center. So we're moving forward with that. We're excited about that. We spent, as a matter of fact, about an hour and a half today working the budget, because like anything else, when they first present it to us, it's always a little bit over budget, and by the time Bob Robinson works them over, we'll have a building that we can afford. So that's exciting. We've also got a picture of Briarwood Elementary, making great progress there with walls. I drove by the building the other day. We've got tons of workers. We had a great winter. We hope that holds up, but we're making a lot of progress. And also with Trailwood. Not quite as far along as Briarwood, but still making good progress. We've got walls up. They've actually got some of the precast walls for our storm shelter up. If you've not driven by the 71st between at Antioch and over by the golf course, we continue to swing a lot of steel and put up a lot of panels, and it now looks like a building. So if you haven't had an opportunity to go by there, we have bi-weekly meetings where we talk about the construction and where our budgets are, and we feel pretty comfortable right now that we'll be delivering that building, we hope, in April of 17 for administrative move-in, and then for the fall of 17 for our students and our signature programs. So that's extremely exciting as well. Crestview, we've got John in the audience. We're making progress. We still have, we've taken a 20-foot hole and turned it into a 40-foot mound of rock. But we are putting in infrastructure now, so we're beginning to pour footings, and we've got all of our underground drainage that's been taken care of, and we'll begin to see some vertical walls there fairly quickly. I'm happy to announce that other than trying to find some location for some goalposts, I think we're finished with the practice facility at East High School. If you've not had a chance to see it, it's remarkable. It'll give a great opportunity for our students to have a great place to practice and play some of our underling games as well. But it is finished. As you know, we were a little bit behind on that because of weather and some of the delays in engineering, but that facility is finished. And the last thing I have is that tomorrow afternoon I go to the Benninghoven faculty meeting to present them where we are with the design of their building. And as a recap, we went to them before Christmas and showed them a preliminary design. We took their input. The architects went back and redesigned, took all of those thoughts back from teachers. So we'll be back and be showing them that building tomorrow. And we hope to be bidding that in the month of March and hopefully have some good numbers to bring to you maybe as early as our next meeting. We got a groundbreaking, I think it's April the 1st for that building.
Correct.
So we look forward to that as well. Again, lots going on in terms of construction. We're very fortunate in our community, and I say this every time, that we have the good patrons of our community that have allowed us the opportunity to refresh our district and provide high-quality facilities for our students. So.
Thank you, Dr. Southwick. And on the note of the new Center for Academic Achievement, you will notice on the consent agenda tonight, we do have the purchase of this building. And so we did advertise for the sale of the building. It was posted publicly. And so we have a bid tonight that does exceed the minimum bid. And so it's on the agenda tonight. And so we're happy for this transition to be occurring and very, very appreciative of these partners. Now on to things that aren't quite as positive. The legislature's in session. A myriad of bills today and tomorrow that could potentially have impact on us in the Shawnee Mission School District. Most of those bills, as you are aware, that have been proposed, we are opposed to those bills. I have not yet heard back from our lobbyists yet this evening, so I'm sure it was a very full day there. But we continue to stay engaged in relation to the issues that might occur in the legislature. On that note, we have what we are affectionately calling Gannon 2. So the most recent decision or opinion of the Kansas Supreme Court in relation to litigation brought by the Schools for Fair Funding. We are not one of those litigants. The decision of the court does give an ultimatum to the legislature. What the Kansas Supreme Court said is that the legislature does not comply with the definition of equity in the mind of the court, then the court will close all school districts in the state of Kansas June 30. That's the ultimatum that's been given by the court. We don't know how the legislature will respond, if they will respond at all. So we simply don't know where that train is going to head at this point in time. There is a lot of conversation that's occurring if the legislature decides they want to try to comply with the equity portion. Remind you, this is not in relation to adequacy. That is still pending before the court, of which we do not know the time frame. In relation to equity, if the legislature responds, they're floating several ideas of where they might generate the additional revenue. We have not heard any of those ideas other than taking revenue from money that's currently either coming to school districts or that exist in school district budgets. So I'm going to hit the pause button. You will recall that we've been very clear, best case scenario for us this next year is level funding in relation to the block grant, and that we wouldn't take a cut in state funding. If that occurs, we still have to find $4 million we're currently spending and reallocate so we can simply move the salary schedule for length of experience, professional growth for all employees, and pick up what we're anticipating in health insurance cost. So $4 million we're already in the hole to start with that we have to reallocate. That is before we face the potential cuts that we could see from the legislature in relation to the Gannon decision. I do not see any scenario where we will see an increase in revenue. The likelihood that we will receive the same level of funding is small. The likelihood that we will lose millions of dollars we're currently receiving is pretty high. So what we are working on internally right now is a situation where our budget's bleak. And it isn't a matter of will we lose $1 to $2 million we need to recoup. We're talking about a lot of money. Again, there are still a lot of unknowns. We were in a meeting late on Friday night with a legislator, and he was throwing out for us alone maybe $7 or $8 million loss. So again, we don't know. That's a part of our struggle as well, is the timing of the issue. The budget cycle for us, as you know, is July 1, June 30. And so we're in February. Will we know in April, May, June? So obviously, this the timing issue creates significant issues for us. But I want to make it very, very clear as we look at our budgetary issues, we're looking at where we can cut. And where we can cut, we're talking multiple millions of dollars. That's the reality of the situation we're dealing with right now. A lot of variables can change in the legislature to, again, best case scenario, no additional loss, to very extensive losses way above and beyond the $4 million we already need to find that is in our budget currently. So I don't want to scare anybody at all, but also we have to be realistic. What we are facing could have very significant impact on the programs, services, and class sizes we currently have in the Shawnee Mission School District. How's that for some exciting news? So stay tuned in that regard. Certainly we'll keep you informed. I'm going to go back to one other item, the timing. The timing is really tough for us because as we enter into contracts for this next year, as we have contracts for construction that are underway, what the court did was declare the school funding mechanism in Kansas unconstitutional. That is beyond just funding for classrooms. The implication, whether intended or not, is very, very broad in its impact on the Shawnee Mission School District. So as we worked through the weekend with the latest news on Friday, we'll certainly keep you informed as we know, but I don't have anything bright or promising to share in relation to school finance and our budget in the Shawnee Mission School District. On that great news, Mrs. Goodburn, I'll stop right there.
Okay. We have a special presentation by the Shawnee Mission Education Foundation, C1, Linda Roser.
On that bright news, you bring me to the podium.
Cheer us up.
Yes, exactly. Happy news.
You don't have an extra $7 million.
Yeah, something like that.
Check your pockets.
So, anyway, thank you very much for allowing me to speak to you tonight, Dr. Henson and Mrs. Goodburn. In the agenda tonight, in the donation section, gift acceptance, the foundation has granted $38,900 to the district for a variety of programs from a variety of sources. I did not bring one big check because it was going so many places and coming from so many places. But I'd like to highlight two for you. One of them is a $7,300 award for the district food pantry from our friends at Whole Foods Market. This contribution comes from their holiday Feed for More campaign, where customers donate at the checkout. This is the third time that we have benefited from Feed for More. They are great partners with us. The funding is used both to keep staples on hand as well as to purchase fresh produce, milk, eggs, bread, and meat for families who find themselves in need of food. I extend our thanks to the Overland Park Whole Foods Market for choosing to make a very real difference for Shawnee Mission students. I worked with Dr. Dennis, and I worked on preparing this grant for Whole Foods way last fall. And then I would also like to recognize the Shawnee Mission Area Council PTA. We have been awarded a $1,000 contribution from them to assist with the expansion of Project Lead the Way, the computer science program, making it available at all high schools in the coming school year. This direct investment in program support from SMAC is the brainchild of Tash Davis. Tash, are you here? You want to stand up? I'm going to put you on the spot. Anyway, Tash is president of the Shawnee Mission Area Council PTA, and she is and the SMAC board. We all work together to identify a meaningful way that SMAC could invest in program support. This has now been added to their standing rules going forward for the SMAC to make an annual contribution for program support through the foundation for the district. It's another indication that we are really all in this together for our students. We are partners for the same cause. And now I'd like to introduce the president of my board of directors, Dean Davison.
Don't run too far away, Linda. Yeah, you can. Stand up, sit down. Thank you very much for giving me just a moment to speak to you here this evening. I may be jumping the gun a little bit, Mrs. Goodburn and other members of the board, because you have this decision to make on your consent agenda here in a few moments, but I wanted to make sure that we took a moment tonight to introduce you to Linda's successor, and I'll talk about Linda in just a moment, but Kim Hinkle has been selected by our board of directors to be the new executive director of the Shawnee Mission Education Foundation. And Kim, why don't you step up here for just a moment? Kim is pretty well known around the community as a not-for-profit leader. She's been with the Nelson Atkins Museum for the last couple of years, and in fact worked with the board and staff a little bit on the Benton painting from the district, and has previously worked with the Harriman Jewel series, worked with a lot of community leaders on a lot of big projects, and as we just heard a few moments ago, we have some big opportunities to help the school district in the coming months and years as we look at the local option, which is community members funding the schools even above and beyond the tax support that they already provide very generously. So I just wanted to introduce you to Kim, and Kim, if you'd like to say a couple of things real quick.
Well, I'm very excited to get started. Thank you so much for having me here, and it's like coming home as a Shawnee Mission alum. I'm very excited to be back and very excited for what the future holds, so thank you.
And to be very specific, Kim is a Shawnee Mission South Raider, and I don't know, did you want to go ahead and do the fight song now, or did you want to wait until later?
We're going to have lessons on my first day over here, so everyone.
Very good. This presentation wouldn't be complete without saying probably a lot of words about Linda Roser, who is retiring here in the next few weeks as our executive director. I'll keep it short. One of the main things that I want to say about Linda is that there is nobody on this staff or in this community who has a greater passion for students and student success than Linda. She really has given her heart and soul to this job, and as a board, we could not be more proud of what she's done. And just her presentation here this evening, she's running through the finish line. She just landed from a little holiday that she took, and I'm not sure she knows what planet she's on or what time zone she's in. But we could not be more proud of Linda. I know that so many people in this community appreciate what she's done. And we're just so happy that you've been with us for the last 8 years, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And now you get the last
So, pardon me for taking more time, but this is my last Board of Education meeting, and I just want to take a personal moment to say thank you so much to you, Dr. Hinson, and to Sarah, and to all of you on the board. I think all 5 of you have sat on the Shawnee Mission Education Foundation board sometime during its time in the last 26 years. So that kind of support and commitment from our community and from our community leaders is really important and gratifying that you all are invested in the mission and programs of the foundation. I've enjoyed working very closely with your cabinet, Dr. Hinson. It makes it possible for us to really focus on programs, which is the big thing that we can do. It's been my real privilege to serve all of our students. I love our all means all words right now, because that's where I come from. That's my heart. That's been my heart from the day I walked in the door here. And I also appreciate your very bold vision for the future of our students. I am proud of the work that we've done at the foundation, that we are aligned with you all, and that we are truly in partnership with you to support your efforts. So I hand off in confidence of where you all are going, and with Kim and with the board, and I will miss being around here on a day-to-day basis, but you're not getting rid of me. I'm still a donor and a McEachin Circle member, so I'll be around. But anyway, thank you all so much.
Linda, thank you. Enjoy your retirement. Okay, we move on to D1. Open forum. We do have a couple speakers tonight, and I will say that at the beginning of each regular business meeting, the Board of Education provides an open forum as an opportunity for public comment on school district issues. Agendas are published in advance to notify the community of the topics under consideration. Patron comments are welcome, but those wishing to speak to an issue not included in the agenda will not usually receive a response during the meeting. So we have three people wishing to address the board tonight. So if you could just keep your comments to about 3 to 5 minutes, that would be appreciated. And again, you will not receive a response tonight after you speak. So, all right, our first speaker is a group. Kyle Baker, Sarah Nessler, Taylor Saulich, and Lauren Stegelman, I believe.
Hello,
Okay.
My name is Laurel Stegelman, and I am a senior at Shawnee Mission East. These are my peers, as we've been introduced to as my seniors.
My name's Kyle Baker.
I'm Sarah Nessler.
And I'm Taylor Sawali.
Thank you for letting us speak tonight, and we'd also like to say that the reason we are talking tonight is because of an issue we have recently endured, which is we have some steel signs that spell out library that we've been wishing to put outside of our own library at Shawnee Mission East. And when we had contacted the district about it, we had received a no. And so we're here tonight to encourage you to reconsider, and we have some reasons as to why we would like you to reconsider. First off, some background on these signs. They're from Mission Valley, which is a school that was closed down, I think 4 or 5 years ago. And these signs are also matching signs that we currently have outside of Shawnee Mission East, outside of our gymnasium. It's just steel and it spells out gymnasium. There's one that says Shawnee Mission East, and then there's another one for Performing Arts Center. We had been given the signs this year by our retired librarian. She had sort of contacted whomever had them before us. And so Stuco is the organization we are part of, and we would be paying for all of the expenses of hanging up this sign outside of our library. We wish for this sign to be put up because we believe that it deserves equal recognition as our gymnasium, our Performing Arts Center, or our school itself. The library is a place where our freshmen wait after school for rides, where our seniors are currently doing our senior papers, and where various students just go to check out books and read and spend their time during lunches or wherever. Secondly, this graduating class upcoming this year, 2016, is our last graduating class that ever walked the halls of Mission Valley, so we would kind of like this as a tribute to them. And thirdly, what had been expressed to us was the district had concerns about the exterior of our school not matching other schools within the district, and we didn't think that was really a justified, valid opinion, because if you look at the facts about it, the other schools within our district have very different exteriors. Shawnee Mission North has a light-up sign outside of their field house saying home of the SM North Indians. South has a electronic marquee, which we were not able to get, even though we pushed for it because of the Prairie Village ordinance that says that we cannot have digital electronic signage on the Mission Road. Oh, that was my ring, I'm sorry. Also, so east, we also have different signs. Recently, I'm not really sure how to describe these, I'm going to be honest. Outside of the schools, it was just added this previous year, but we have these like rectangular sort of, I'm sorry, I'm really bad at just, yes, that indicate entrances and exits and what school you're at. Ours is smaller than some of the other ones. There's different designs for the other ones. And so I'm not here to discourage difference between all the schools. We're here to encourage it, and I think that there's no good reason for us not to put up these signs. We want to identify where a library is. We have the signs in our building. They're ready to go. Stuco will take care of all expenses, so that will not be a worry. And yeah, okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have Quinn Benyon.
Good evening, board, and Dr. Hinson, Dr. Southwick. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your dedication to community and helping build one wonderful schools that we have. Appreciated Dr. Southwick's presentation tonight about the buildings that occur. We have one in Prairie Village right now. Introduction, Quinn Benyon, City Administrator of Prairie Village. With Briarwood rebuild, and we recognize the importance of investment into the community, both public and private. As you invest, as the city invests, and then it encourages private investment. So I'm here to talk about just a few thoughts about the TIF policy that you're considering later tonight and perhaps at a future meeting as well. My comments will be brief. We as myself, I haven't had an opportunity to talk to our city staff or city council yet. We received the policy over the weekend as it was released as part of the packet. Now TIF is very little use in Prairie Village. We mostly have development that occurs without incentives, but it is a tool that could be used to attract something that may not normally occur. I share, again, I've not discussed this with City Council, so this is not a representation of majority of council, but I do share a concern about the message this policy may send. Encourage you to be very careful and considerate as you discuss the policy. There could be an unintended a message that economic development using TIF within the Shawnee Mission School District is becoming more difficult. And the last thing we want to do as an aging community, a community that's landlocked, is have that signal that development might be more difficult than other locations. In my view, the Kansas school finance formula pits school funding against economic development. Wish there was a way that we could all work in the state legislature, come up with a funding formula that recognizes student growth, recognizes reappraisal growth in the formula, because right now it's a competing interest. We would welcome an opportunity to meet with district officials. In fact, I have a meeting later this week to discuss this policy. As we step forward, I would ask that it be done so carefully and cautiously, and understanding what our city processes are, and in each of our cities are different. There's 14 cities in the district, and each of our needs are different, and also what an investor's motivation might be. as we look at this policy. So I thank you for your time, and that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Quinn. And lastly, we have Chris Engel.
Thank you. Chris Engel, Assistant City Administrator with the City of Merriam. I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to speak this evening. I apologize, Mayor and City Council couldn't be in attendance. They have their own board meeting this evening, so you got me. In Northeast Johnson County, cities and the school district share a long tradition of working collaboratively together. We share the same people. We have the same constituents. We want the same things. It's in that light that I'm here to address the policy you're scheduled to discuss this evening and perhaps at a future meeting. We believe that it will not only change the manner in which the district approaches TIF, but it also has the ability to undo several decades of successful collaboration that we've had in Northeast Johnson County that has made the community one that we're all proud of. This policy, we believe, as it's interpreted, represents a geologic shift in what has historically been a mutually beneficial relationship between municipalities, schools, and the families that we both serve. You see, TIF is an economic development tool that local governments use to improve the quality of life for area children and their families. And that's not just a theory, it's a fact. I'm here this evening on the heels of a successful TIF project, the Merriam Town Center TIF, which from our perspective stands to deliver over $650,000 to the school district that had previously been routed to the TIF development. There were TIF bonds. That money used to pay TIF bonds. Now it goes to education. With this policy, Merriam Town Center, which we view as being successful, would still be a blighted, rundown apartment complex. It'd still be a neighborhood full of codes violators. And this TIF policy will impact all of our communities, families, children, business owners, and our local governments too. Quite frankly, we believe this policy will create an uneven playing field. We believe that developers will have a tendency to want to go down the highway somewhere else in southern Johnson County, somewhere in Wyandotte, somewhere in Kansas City, Missouri, to where there is a little bit friendlier environment to economic development. Redevelopment in built-out communities is hard and it's expensive. There's site challenges, there's size challenges. Those things drive up the cost. They're more expensive. TIF is a reasonable, appropriate tool to keep the communities competitive, and we use it. That would otherwise send development down to southern Johnson County, further down the highway as far as we're concerned. At the core, I believe our concern with this policy has just been the lack of communication that we have to understand what that policy is and how we can best fit into it. It just feels like we're not talking about what the needs are of the school district and how we can best collaborate, as Mr. Benyon put, in Topeka. It seems to me like the onus should be on us to collaboratively work together to assert our common goals in Johnson County, in the Shawnee Mission School District in Topeka. And we're not doing that because ultimately I feel like we're not talking. And in the end, if key community partners are not talking, and ultimately we're responsible for providing those high quality services, including top-notch education that the Shawnee Mission School District does provide. If we can't communicate and engage in a productive way, then I think ultimately we're going to pay one way or another. That concludes my comments.
Dr. Henson, was our speaker at last Friday's meeting?
Yes, I was. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, that concludes our open forum, and we will move to the approval of minutes, E1. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Sela.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Mack. Sorry, I'm getting my papers lined here. Okay. Any comments? No? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, F1, adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Denny.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Sela. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. G1, approval of routine business by consent.
I move approval of routine business by consent.
Thank you, Ms. Mack.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Denny. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Oh,
If Dr. Henson say anything further?
did you want to say anything further? We will move down to, I believe we are on M1 now. Dr. Henson.
We have our approval of our elementary program of studies. That's a document you have reviewed. The only significant change at all is a benefit to our students. Instead of requiring students that want to take pre-algebra in sixth grade, instead of requiring them to go to a middle school in the early hours of the day, and as you know, what we have been witnessing are a number of students that'll start. It's very difficult for families, and those that'll drop out. We'll be offering pre-algebra at all of our elementary schools for sixth graders this next school year. So certainly we think that's extremely beneficial to our students. That is the only significant change in the elementary program of studies.
I would move approval of the elementary program of studies for 2016-17.
Thanks, Ms. Seela.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Any additional comments or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. P1, Dr. Denny.
I move the Board of Education recess to executive session to discuss matters relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student. And we will reconvene at 8:03 and continue our business at that time.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Ms. Seela. Need to vote, right?
Yep.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we will be back at 8:03?
Yep.
Correct. It's 8:02. Do we have to wait till 8:02? Okay, all right, so we're okay. All right, so P1, Ms. Sela.
Yes, I would move that we uphold the decision of the hearing committee for student suspension E16-1.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, that moves us to R1, Superintendent, Dr. Henson.
Mr. Knapp is in the audience with us tonight. Russ is our Chief Financial Officer, and so Russ is going to come at this time and share some information in relation to TIFs and how they impact the Shawnee Mission School District. So, Russ, thanks for being here. Why don't you tell us how long you've been in the Shawnee Mission School District, Russ?
I have been 17 years now.
So Russ has a great understanding of school finance, certainly a great understanding of how things work in the Shawnee Mission School District as well. So walk us through your presentation, please, tonight,
Okay.
Russ.
What I'm going to try to do is keep it simple, and this is a scenario where I'll walk you through our various funds. We have 8 funds where we have mill levies, and that generates local taxes that is paid to the Johnson County and then remitted to us. So I want to take you through the impact that it'll eventually have on the Shawnee Mission School District's budget once a TIP project comes on the tax rolls. So in my scenario here, I'm just going to use some simple numbers. $2 million is the base. So when that TIP project or TIP zone started, that area had a assessed valuation of $2 million. And then when that project was completed, then the assessed valuation was determined to be $20 million. And so then I'm just going to use those numbers to kind of walk through the remaining, how it impacts each of these funds. So the first one is the general fund. And I kind of brought that up and separated it from the bottom 7 funds, so it's not in the totals that you see on the bottom of the spreadsheet. And the reason being is that it is exempt. So state TIF laws allows the 20 mills, the general fund that the state collects, they get to exempt that. And that money is paid by our taxing patrons, goes to the Johnson County, and Johnson County remits it straight to the state. Okay, and then that is redistributed through the whole school finance formula statewide. Okay, so we're going to take that out of the loop for that reason. The rest of the funds do have an impact, and the first one is the supplemental general, or better known as our LOB, local option budget. That's also our large fund that generates our operating funds. The thing that with the school finance formula, it creates our spending authority, or a cap. So the general fund had a cap in spending, and as you know from past budget presentation, the LOB has a cap. And you just go through the school finance formula, you calculate it, and in our case, we get to spend $60 million in LOB, not a penny more. We can spend less, but not a penny more. Then you kind of work your way backwards. You find out what your assessed valuation is, and then you determine your mill levy to try to generate $60 million in revenue. So as Quinn mentioned earlier, we do not have the ability to capture any assessed valuation increase, whether it's TIF or not a TIF. If our assessed valuation is $3.2 billion, if we double the 6.4, we would get no more additional money for this fund. We would only be able to levy enough to generate $60 million, whatever that spending authority is. So what happens is the mill levy rolls back. It gets less. Whatever it takes to generate that revenue to cover that spending authority. Okay? And you can ask any questions you want at any time. Okay? Declining enrollment and cost of living are very similar. They have a fixed amount. We can't spend any more in those 2 funds. It goes through the formula and it says you get to spend this amount of money. Declining enrollment's like $3.2 million, and cost of living is $6 million. And again, you go through the same process. You set your levy, you figure out your assessed valuation, you set your levy enough to generate that money. And that's flow-through money that goes back to the state and then comes back to us in the formula. Okay? I'll skip over capital outlay. The last 3, special liability, special assessment, bond and interest, they do not have a cap like the first 3 do. but you do set your spending authority. So a good example of that is bond and interest. You're going to set your bond and interest payments for what they are for the next year, and then you go through the process again. You determine what your mill levy needs to be to generate that amount of revenue to pay off those debt payments. And the same with special liability and special assessment. So as you can tell, all 6 of these funds are driven by the formula, driven by your spending authority. Look at your AV, and then you determine your mill levy at that time. So when new assessed valuation comes on, it's good. I mean, it's good for the community, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have a dollar for dollar impact for a school district. And this isn't a Shawnee Mission thing. This is statewide. Any school district that has assessed valuation increases, you're just restricted by the school finance formula. You can't capture any new revenue.
Question.
Yes.
And that last point, I wanted to help or have you clarify it because you've used the word formula several times. I want to make sure everybody understands. So we're talking about the formula and not the grant piece, but the other part to the formula. Am I correct?
Well, it's both. It's the school finance formula that has bled into the block grant, and now we're set in the block grant for 2 years.
I didn't want to be confused that the old formula is typically used as a reference point.
Yes.
So that's what I was asking.
Okay, yeah. So this would, so the spending authorities are set under the block grant for this year and for next year.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So the one fund that we do benefit is the capital outlay fund. By state law, we can go up to 8 mills, and we are at that. So when assessed valuation does increase, that does generate additional revenue for us, and that is a very good thing. That takes care of all those infrastructures needs that we have that Dr. Southwood talked about earlier in the night about all the construction we're going on. So as that new development comes on, that's great. It generates assessed valuation. It generates new taxes for the capital outlay fund, and we can take care of our infrastructure needs. So I didn't want to get too much more involved. I'm kind of done with what I wanted to say. Is there any questions on that? I wanted to just keep it simple. So the increment that we're talking about, tax increment financing, when we have that increment, they capture that. And then when that, for 20 years typically, they capture that and it's not distributed to the school districts. That's the money that's captured for the TIP project. When that comes off the tax roll, that's kind of what we're talking about tonight. That assessed valuation goes on the tax roll and goes up, and then we get to start collecting that tax dollar. So we do collect that tax dollar, but it's just replacing tax money that we already have. And again, we just roll back that tax levy.
Russ, with that scenario, is it fair to say that with TIP projects as they come off, or just general assessed valuation, that the school district captures the capital outlay piece, but the benefactors of those projects would really be the taxpayers because our taxes will roll back? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I want to make sure you understand the conversation. So the top part, we talk about the cap, and then we talk about the rollback. So the only category or fund, if you will, we can capture is capital outlay. Everything else is capped or rolled back. So you hear discussion, I've had this question a lot, you hear discussion, cities are concerned about the cap being imposed by the legislature, CPI or other indexes with the exceptions. We don't have any of that. It is all capped. There are no exceptions. There's no CPI growth for us. It's all limited. Capital outlay is the only area.
So during the 20 years of the TIP, I mean, we do not get any capital outlay during that time because that amount is captured, is that correct?
We get the base amount.
So in this case scenario, 2 million, we get the 8 mils off the 2 million, the base.
For capital outlay, we would get 16,000.
Right.
The 8 mils off the 2 million.
But it'd be off the 2 million. My
Right.
question
Yes.
is that as a project progresses, does that AV increase, or is it 2 million here, and then it's 2 million all the way through, and then 20 million at year 20?
It increases during the project,
It does, okay.
but we only capture the base.
Right. Oh,
We capture the base
State
year.
the base.
So
Okay.
Merriam Town Center TIF, 1995 was the base year. We'll see the tax impact in 2017, 22 years later. All of the monies that were captured during that time frame, we don't see.
Not at all.
No.
So Russ, if I look at the chart and I just look at capital outlay and I look at 2 million and 20 million. So for a TIF district that's established today that has a value of $2 million, we would collect $16,000 a year through the 20-year life.
Correct.
So no increase. And then in year 21, or whenever the district is either dissolved or the project is completed, then we begin to receive the 160,000.
Correct.
Doesn't seem like a fair deal to me.
Here's something you need to make sure that you're clear on in relation to collecting and capturing. And I'll use, Chris brought up the Merriam Town Center TIF tonight, so let's just use it as an example. So when a city puts together a TIF project, if there's retail involved and there's sales tax, Merriam Town Center TIF, they did not capture any of the sales tax generated. According to the city of Merriam, from 2000 to 2015, they generated an additional $19 million in sales tax revenue. Additional revenue going to the Shawnee Mission School District was zero. Zero. Because they captured 100% of the property tax, which would normally flow to us. They did not capture any of the sales tax. They collected 100% of the sales tax. So if we want to talk about being good community partners, then there's cost sharing in the process. How does it make sense for one entity to collect 100% and we give up 100%? That's the cost sharing analysis in relation to that issue. So during the life, and we're looking at a TIF project right now, or a TIF boundary right now, remember you can share, commingle your funds, or share funds between TIF projects within a TIF boundary. It could go 40 years where there's no additional revenue coming to the Shawnee Mission School District and through capital outlay. So good community collaboration and partnership, there's cost sharing involved in the process. Not we're going to give up 100% and you're going to get 100%, and oh, by the way, you get to recoup all of your allowable cost. So what happened in Merriam is they took the money that would have been flowing to other entities and they took care of their infrastructure the first time, and then they did it a second time. So there's no cost to them, and they generate additional revenue. So the allowable cost and then the capture and the collection are crucial in relation to the finance mechanism of any TIF project. Add or take away anything from that, Dr. Southwick?
I think it's pretty accurate.
So Russ's information, I want to make sure that everyone is clear because evidently some people are unwilling to accept the facts. In relation to a TIF project, when it comes out of the TIF project, we as a school district, we have to cap and we have to roll back. So a statement that the Shawnee Mission School District would generate over $600,000 from the Merriam, a windfall of over $600,000, is not true. It's $95,000 from the Merriam Town Center TIF. So if we really, again, want to look apples to apples, we have to look at those mechanisms in each individual TIF boundary and certainly TIF projects as well. So I want to make sure you have a chance to ask any other questions of Russ in relation to cap, in relation to rollback. Thanks, Russ.
Awesome.
Dr. Southwick, would you introduce Mr. Logan, please?
Yes, tonight we have Fred Logan as our attorney that has worked with us very closely. Just would like to remind the board that after we went through the process on the Meadowbrook TIF, and we came admittedly to the 11th hour with you in terms of whether or not to take action or not, you would ask us to move forward and look at some kinds of processes or procedures in a policy that we would look at moving forward, trying to do our due diligence so that if we were going to determine that there was an adverse impact, which the law specifically states that we should look at, or not, we would have a rubric per se for us to look at that. So we put down some ideas, but I'm one that always looks for somebody that's a lot smarter than I am, and that, in this case, is Fred Logan. So Fred has worked very closely with me on this process and procedure, and he's here tonight to talk to you a little bit about the actual policy that you've got a first reading on tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Southwick, and members of the board. It's good to be here. First of all, let me emphasize this is a first reading. So there will be an opportunity for comment, for adjustments, for others to have input that's appropriate. I would note that the discussion really began 4 months ago, and the fact that the board had a policy under consideration was out in the public arena 4 months ago. The policy that's been reworked by me, you had a chance to look at some months ago. But let me start, first of all, by saying, why would you ask questions about TIFs? Easy way out, just don't ask any questions. Just kind of go along with it. Why would you do that? Well, first of all, you're the governing body of our community's most important asset. It's K-12 education institution. You're the governing body. You are charged by statute with making a determination whether or not a particular TIF project has an adverse impact or an adverse effect on the school district. By having a policy, you are not saying that TIFs are bad. And in fact, I will point out to you momentarily that you actually state as a matter of policy your commitment to economic development, your commitment to community collaboration, and in no way, shape, or form does the adoption of a policy or guidelines for board consideration do anything more than help you through the process. That's what a responsible governing body does. That's what a responsible governing body does. Why would you ask the questions? Well, 25 years ago, who would have ever thought that this district, that its financial authority over operations would vanish? 25 years ago, who would have thought that this district would be limited as to what it could spend, even by category, that it would be put in a formal statutory straitjacket as to what it could spend, that it couldn't reallocate among accounts? Who would have thought that in 2007, a legislative post-audit report would find that the Shawnee Mission School District was in the bottom 2 districts of 69 that were looked at by legislative post-audit in terms of state categorical aid for special education? And when you read between the lines, the only reason that could be, there was no rational reason for it. It was just kind of the way it was written. So it's good for you as a governing board to ask these questions. I have not, just so we are clear, I have not sensed in my work with staff that there is any desire to say that TIFs are bad. There's no such predisposition. There's a strong commitment to economic development and a strong commitment to collaboration among public partners. There's a need for a policy. You've seen there that it does have an impact on your tax base, and it certainly has an impact in the area of capital outlay. So let me just give you an example that most of you, I think, were on the board. If we lose our flexibility in capital outlay, here's what could happen. You know that at Apache, over on Goddard, we had a real need to build a new elementary school. And we were ultimately able to do that because the flexibility existed in capital outlay. We had at-risk children. There was a real need. We were able to do that. That's the kind of flexibility in capital outlay I know that Dr. Henson and Dr. Southwick are particularly concerned about retaining. So that's why it's important to ask the questions and to look at it. Nobody's saying that the cities shouldn't do TIFs or that they're acting inappropriate or anything else. But I would hope that at the same time, people would acknowledge that you're acting appropriately as a governing body for our community's most important asset, when you adopt guidelines under a statute. So let me turn to that. I'm going to turn to the policy here and just kind of walk through it. And, you know, the first thing I would say is that there's a statute here that guides us. It's KSA 12-1771. It provides in pertinent part, no privately owned property subject to ad valorem taxes shall be acquired and redeveloped if the Board of Education levying taxes on such property determines by resolution adopted within 30 days following the conclusion of the hearing for the establishment of the redevelopment district that the proposed redevelopment district will have an adverse effect on such school district. Now, how do you approach that decision? You don't have to have a policy. You could just kind of ad hoc your way through it, or you could adopt some guidelines that are just that, guidelines. I want us to emphasize they're guidelines. They are not exclusive. They are neither exclusive nor are they mandatory. You still have appropriate discretion to exercise. I suspect that at the end of the day, it would be a rare matter that a TIF would be disapproved on a finding of adverse impact. But the policy guidelines provide help to the staff and to you as you wend your way through this issue. You ask, why has the issue come up now? It used to be that cities really didn't want TIFs. And now the market has changed. Cities are looking at them. It's appropriate to adopt a policy. There's a change in the environment. So just walking through the policy, I want to go right to the third paragraph because you make a policy statement. First, you say you're committed to supporting economic development initiatives in the 14 municipalities that make up the school district. Then you say, 2, acting in partnership with the county, cities, and other taxing entities on economic development initiatives. You're committed to that. And 3, you're ensuring that the tax base of the school district is not adversely affected in the long term by the establishment of TIF redevelopment districts. Those are all appropriate policy statements for you to make as the governing body of the district. Does not say that you're going to disapprove TIFs, nor does it say that TIFs are bad. In fact, it's a pretty ringing statement in favor of economic development. Then you go on to say that the school district will consider a variety of factors, including those set forth below. So again, they are neither mandatory nor are they exclusive. They provide some guidelines. You hope to look at the supporting documentation in support of the TIF. That seems reasonable. I would think that everybody would agree with that. You're going to review the TIF redevelopment district proposals in light of applicable statutes and the policy underlying those statutes. You know, in the Meadowbrook TIF, there was a little bit different policy that underlied that statute, and that had to do with conservation, and that's set out in statute. That's an appropriate thing to look at. You'll review the financial impact, short-term and long-term of the TIF. We talked about what happens in capital outlay, and we've talked about how important capital outlay is to the district. School district will consider proposals made to ameliorate the financial impact of the TIF redevelopment district on the school district. It would not be atypical, in my view, for developers to start a conversation with the district very early about how they might be able to work with us on a TIF project. Also would not be unusual for municipal officials to engage in that discussion, and I suspect that that is exactly what will happen. Then you outline some proposals that would cause you to more favorably consider TIF redevelopment district proposals. They contain a sunset provision. We've talked about what happens when these tools are extended. We're seeing a controversy on that with respect to star bonds over in Wyandotte County. So if there's a sunset, that's something that would be favorably considered by the board. Now again, it is neither exclusive nor mandatory. It's not mandated. This is something that you would favorably consider. In a way, you are providing advice to a developer. This is something that we would favorably entertain. It would specify an ad valorem tax impact of 50% or less. Again, it's not mandated, but that, it just seems to me, is something that's sort of self-evident that would be something that you would look favorably upon. The next would be that it's a TIF that relies on sales tax rather than on property tax. Again, a TIF that relies on sales tax, obviously then the municipality is making a decision on that, is sharing in the costs as well. But that has no impact on the district or on capital outlay. And one that provides that excess revenues to be captured to pay debt with the TIF retired as early as possible. Now, again, I think those things are self-evident. They are not required. There are things that you would, as a governing body, have an opportunity to consider. Also, that there's a provision that you would scrutinize TIFs that involve residential areas to a greater extent. I don't really think that's going to be a major issue, but I think it's an appropriate statement for you to consider. Then the policy calls for you to establish a committee to conduct the review described in the policy and to make recommendations regarding the TIF proposal to the board. And then it lists who the members will be. As I said, this is a first reading. There's an opportunity for comment and input, and I would think and I would hope that people would engage in that conversation. There are things that you can do with respect to an effective date. You could make the effective date down the road to give people notice. There are a number of things that you can do, but I think the important thing to note here is that when you adopt a policy, you're not behaving irresponsibly, you're behaving as a responsible governing board of our community's most important asset, its K-12 education system. So it's guidelines, and it's not a hammer, it's actually a tool that's useful for everybody. This may not be the exact right policy. There may be other components that would be better. There may be changes that could be made in wording to make it better. I have no doubt that's true. But the idea of a policy to help guide you is appropriate. And I note that Overland Park, as a governing body of a municipality, made a decision to adopt a written policy. So the adoption of a written policy is not something that's sort of outside the mainstream. It's good government. I stand for questions.
I do have one question, and is put, as it was developed, the number 50%, is there a benchmark reference for that one?
I'll address that. We were in some conversation, and again, capital outlay is really the only place that we can benefit, and some calculations that I had worked with Russ would have put a share for us to be able to be held harmless in capital outlay. And it's an odd formula, but it's somewhere between 23 and 25%. And that's where I really believe that we would be early on. I do have to say that as I reviewed Overland Park's policy, in that particular policy where they talked about a 50% capture for sales tax as a maximum, that we began to think that if it's fair for that to be with sales tax, then that should be at least a starting place for us to look at with respect to our property tax. So that's where the 50% came from. We were somewhat following their lead. They've allowed for no more than a 90% capture of the increment. But again, when you flow 10%, as you've seen tonight, through our budget, it provides very little income to the school district with respect to the project. So that's where we came up with it. But again, I want to reemphasize, as the committee that would be subject to looking at any of these TIFs and having these conversations, that's not an ultimatum. That's not a deal breaker. It's not an absolute. We put that in because we thought 50-50 share seemed to be fair.
And of course, it goes without saying as a policy, it rests with you as to what the appropriate number, if any, is to be there.
We have gotten several emails. I imagine the other members of the Board of Education have gotten several emails from city councils throughout our 14 municipalities. One of the things I keep reading is that we have not, that this is all brand new. And we have talked about this for months. We have talked about drafting a TIF policy. We've had presenters, et cetera, and I was wondering if I could look at Dr. Hinson and Dr. Southwick. And could you tell us about the municipalities that you have had discussions with, please, so we will all know?
Yeah, first thing we did was pull the existing TIF policies that some of our cities have. Some of our cities have TIF policies, some do not have TIF policies. the TIF policies that are in place vary greatly between our cities, which creates difficulty for us in having a common platform. That's why intentionally here we have guidelines that provide flexibility. So if we look at an individual TIF boundary in one city, it might have some restraints or challenges that a TIF boundary in another city might not have. So when you have a fast rule that we're only going to do at 50% and we're not flexible on that, those would be wrong guidelines in my opinion because of those concerns. In visiting with some of our cities on what they deem to be appropriate and not appropriate, I'm going to go back and reiterate because we've had this conversation with them. We met with all the city managers. They can't agree. Makes it difficult for us as a school district. And so that's why we've gone back again, is just to put guidelines in place. We started talking about TIFs and TIF guidelines and how they impact the district about a year and a half ago. We've been talking about that publicly ever since.
And I would add to that I think it was January, we went to a DMAC meeting where most of the
Could you
city.
explain what that is?
Well, I think
For
it's
everybody.
debt
I know
management.
I know, but
Advisory Council.
Advisory Council.
For debt management for Johnson County.
Right, and that evidently was an older organization that existed years ago. It, for whatever reason, had not met for several years, but the county administrator thought it was time for us to get back together. And that day, particularly, Dr. Henson gave a presentation on the impact of TIFs to everybody in the room and explained what the fallout would be. Now, having said that, we've had some conversations with several of our cities, but I want to be the first to say, and I say this every day with our staff members, that a relationship is built on communication from two people. And that if I have a lack of communication with people that I deal with, then I own that and they own it. And I think what we have opportunity for is, as we have obviously gotten people's attention about how we move forward, is a great opportunity for us to sit down and find some common ground about what moves our communities and our school district forward. I've said several times that in the past we had an administration that felt that there was no impact. TIFs had no impact on the school district. And I will credit Russ Knapp for when I asked the question, let's look at it. And we began to look at it closely. It became very apparent to us that there is an impact, only in capital outlay. If we had our druthers, make our 8 meals exempt, like the 20, it's probably the lesser of the evil for a developer. It's probably the lesser of the evil on the project, and it keeps us whole. But the state statute does not allow us to do that right now. If we had that, quite honestly, we'd be very happy. And I want to say this, I mentioned the infrastructure, but if we're not careful, we will have redeveloped this community. But if the infrastructure of our school district falters, people will move to other communities because they will select their schools. So just like roads and centers for economic impact, it's equally important that along the way we can take care of our aging infrastructure in our school system. We want to be good partners. We want to just have an opportunity to share along the way. I'm encouraged about this dialogue because I think it gives us an opportunity to move forward, that we do have people's attention. We're willing to sit at the table and look at what's best. We're not against economic development. But I'm hired by you all to look at the best interest of the school district and what we do for our students. And if I look the other way, then I will tell you I've compromised my integrity and I won't do that.
Timing. We've given you the information according to what we're living under now. I'm going to call it I'll call it the umbrella instead of the cloud, in relation to school funding. What's going to change next month, the month after, I won't repeat all of that, we don't know. This is how the current block grant and previously as well impacts school funding. I do not want us to be in a rush in relation to these guidelines because there's so much. So when it comes back, I doubt that is March because there's so much going on in Topeka that could impact where we are in relation to TIFs and how they impact us. So I want to make sure that we're very deliberate in the conversation to watch what happens with other entities being at the state level before we would take any additional action. So we want to pause, but this is our first reading to say here's what we're thinking about now. We wanted Mr. Logan here to be here, wanted him to be here to express issues to you as well. Any questions for Mr. Logan? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I have one question, and it's really not for you, Fred, but it's just kind of the whole TIF thing. It affects us. It affects us for 20 years. But our say-so, yay or nay, on a TIF project happens at the very, very beginning of a TIF project. I don't know if either of you want to speak to that, but it's like, it's not that we go on and we figure out all the financing and stuff as the project moves along.
And Fred, you can chime in on this too, but the statute allows us to consider the impact when the boundary is formed, and only when the boundary is formed. And once that boundary is formed, then all the individual projects that are in there, we're not at the table for the discussion of those. So it's very important for us. It could be conceivable that a boundary would be passed without due diligence of the projects, and we not have all the information to know whether there's an impact or not. Now, when we study a boundary to approve it or not, in fairness to the cities, they don't always know what the developer's going to bring forth. Most of it is speculation. But again, if we can, as we review the boundary, not the project, but the boundary, and how many different projects might be in that boundary, then it gives us an opportunity to gauge, as per the policy that's presented, what that impact might be. So the last thing I'd say with that, and then I'll turn it over to Fred because I know he'll have a comment, and that is that boundaries stay open. Projects close in 20 years. So an example of that might be if I have multiple projects within a boundary, it doesn't collapse in 20 years. It collapses, the project collapses within 20 years of the project when it starts. So you can conceivably have a boundary form that lasts 40 years plus. So that's why we'd like to see some sunset provisions, that if this boundary that's established doesn't produce within X number of years, that it collapses, and then you review it again. Right now, the statute does not require that, as we believe it to be true.
But Dr. Southwick, can't a city council, even if a project is completed within a boundary, they can still reestablish that boundary again without coming to us? Is that correct?
The boundary stays open.
The boundary stays open.
The projects close in 20 years.
So unless a council votes to collapse the boundary, then the boundary would stay open.
And I want to give a little bit of credit to Prairie Village. When we talked about this issue and we had conversation, they did just that. They put sunset provisions. They talked about exclusions from dollars going from one project to another. That was a very good conversation, and their council took action.
I think the only thing I could add is that it does seem to me that this is an area, this TIF area, where there's an important opportunity for a new kind of collaboration. Cities in the district have had good collaboration over the years, but they haven't really had to confront challenges like TIFs very often. And I think we've outlined some reasons tonight why capital outlay is a particular concern. I talked about what we were able to do at Apache. It would be really a tragedy if we didn't have that kind of flexibility in the future because of we didn't have the same flexibility in capital outlay. And I think there's an opportunity here during this comment period to hear some comments and talk about, because the cities realize, I'm sure, that if this district prospers, they will prosper. If this district has problems, they will have serious problems. So there's an excellent opportunity for collaboration.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Fred.
Mr. Logan. Okay. Board comments, T1. Any board comments? Yes.
I have a comment.
Okay.
Topeka has been throwing out a lot of different bills. A lot of different pieces of legislation have been thrown about. And I'm speaking as a member of the Board of Education, but I would also like to make a comment as a private citizen. One of the bills that has passed the Senate, and I don't know if it has passed the House or not, is about suicide prevention and what schools ought to do about that. There was a lot of testimony in favor of having training for staff members for schools, so that every member of our staff would be able to possibly prevent suicides from happening. Suicide has touched my family. I don't talk about it very often, but my brother took his life almost 4 years ago. It is a tragedy. It is awful. Is it preventable? Possibly in some cases, in others, it is not. But the issue that I'm having, once again, with the legislature is they are telling us if this bill passes and the governor signs it, that we will have to provide training for each and every staff member, and the costs will be borne locally. They are not putting any funds behind it to have this training. Once again, it's an unfunded mandate from Topeka. As wonderful as this training can be, and if it does pass, and if it saves the life of one student or one person, that is incredible. However, I just wanted to make the comment again. Unfunded mandates are something that we as the Board of Education, it is part of our policy, not part of our policy, it is part of our platform to the legislature. And even in a piece of legislation like this, funds are not going to come to the local school board. So that's my comment for tonight. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Stratton?
I want to share one comment as an observation of the course of this entire meeting. I am so appreciative of the way we begin our meeting with the K through 12 and the excellence and the students, because we can get mired in a lot of other pieces of our body's decision-making process, but in the end, it really helps to see the students first. And in the presentation by the staff, it also helps remind me the wonderful culture that's been created inside the staff from all levels of administration. I love the culture trumps strategy comment, and I heard it several times in the presentations by our administrators. And one even said collaborative culture trumps strategy. So I think we've got that down inside the district. I'm really impressed with that. I'm going to say on behalf of our board, this is an opportunity for us to bring that message outside this body and use that same approach towards this policy. I think we have the opportunity to provide some guidance, leadership, and creating a collaborative culture, much like Mr. Logan talked about. So I'll reiterate his comments that it's an opportunity for us to provide leadership in a collaborative way, trumping perhaps a strategy. Because in the end, this is all about process that then leads to policy. And I want to make sure that the next couple weeks, we spend a lot of time talking about effective process in order to get to effective policy. Thanks.
Anybody else? I just appreciate, Dr. Southwick, your work on this, the TIF policy, with Mr. Logan and Dr. Henson, too. I appreciate your work on this, too. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Denny.
I move that the Board of Education recess to executive session in order to discuss personnel matters regarding non-elected personnel, specifically the superintendent's objectives, and to consult with our attorney on matters deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. And we will reconvene at 9:30. No further business will be conducted following the executive session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.